The elevator arrived without sound. Mara noticed that first, not because she was especially alert, but because the building itself was loud. Pipes knocked inside the walls. Old lights buzzed overhead. The air carried the dull echo of other people's lives stacked above and below. Elevators in this building always announced themselves. This one did not. The doors were already open when she reached it. She paused, keys still in her hand, and looked down the narrow hallway. Nothing else seemed off. The carpet was threadbare. A distant television murmured behind one of the apartment doors. Her phone showed the time as 7:42 p.m. Ordinary, exhausted evening. She stepped inside. The elevator was smaller than she expected. Not cramped, but tight in a way that suggested it had been designed for fewer years than it had survived. The walls were brushed metal, dulled by fingerprints. There was no mirror. That struck her as odd. Most elevators had mirrors, even cheap ones. People liked to see themselves while waiting. The panel held buttons labeled with numbers, but the numbers did not run in order. 1, 3, 7, 4, 10, 2, number 5, number 6, number 8 or 9. She frowned, then told herself not to read into it. Old building, renovations done in parts. She pressed 4, the floor she had lived on for 3 years. The doors closed smoothly. The elevator did not move. There was no jolt, no hum, no sense of upward pull. It felt as though it were suspended, neither rising nor falling. For a moment, Mara wondered if it was broken. She reached toward the panel to press the button again. Before she could, the doors opened. She was not on the 4th floor. The hallway beyond the doors was wider, brighter, and unfamiliar. The carpet was new. The walls were painted a soft beige instead of the building's usual gray. Sunlight streamed through a window at the far end, though her building's corridors had no windows at all. She stood still, confused. A woman walked past the elevator without looking at her. The woman wore a navy blazer and carried a coffee cup. She moved with purpose, as if late for something. Her footsteps echoed down the hall. Mara leaned out slightly. "Excuse me," she said. The woman did not slow down. Mara stepped fully out of the elevator. The doors remained open behind her. She glanced back, half expecting them to close and trap her on this floor. They stayed open, patient. She looked down at the carpet. No dust, no stains. It smelled faintly of cleaning solution. This was not her building. Or if it was not the version she knew. She walked to the nearest apartment door and checked the number. Her stomach tightened. That was her floor number, or close enough to unsettle her. She turned and stepped back into the elevator. The doors closed immediately this time. Her pulse was faster than she liked, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. Panic was rarely useful. She had learned that early. When something did not make sense, the answer was usually simpler than it felt. She pressed 4 again. The elevator moved. She felt it this time. A gentle downward pull. When the doors opened, she was back on her floor. The gray carpet, the flickering light, the familiar scuff mark near apartment 4B. Relief washed through her, sharp and quick. She laughed under her breath, embarrassed. A malfunction, a temporary glitch, the kind of thing people complained about and forgot. She walked to her apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. That night, she dreamed of buttons rearranging themselves. In the dream, she pressed 1 floor and arrived somewhere that felt almost right. Familiar, but off by inches. Faces she recognized smiled at her with expressions that did not belong to them. She woke with a headache and the sense that she had forgotten something important. The next morning, she took the stairs. It was not a conscious decision at first. She simply found herself bypassing the elevator and heading for the stairwell. For flights down, a small inconvenience she barely noticed. At work, the day passed without incident. Emails, meetings, conversations that blurred together. She told herself the elevator incident had been stress, fatigue, imagination filling in gaps. On her way home that evening, she stood in the lobby longer than necessary. The elevator doors were closed. She waited. After a moment, they opened. Again, without sound. She hesitated. There was no one behind her. No pressure to move. She could take the stairs again. She knew that. Instead, she stepped inside. The panel looked the same as before. The same scattered numbers. She pressed 4. The doors closed. The elevator moved upward. This time, when the doors opened, she found herself facing a hallway she almost recognized. The walls were the same gray as her building, but cleaner. The lights were brighter. The carpet was newer, though the pattern matched. It felt like her floor, refurbished by someone who remembered it imperfectly. A man stood a few steps away, unlocking an apartment door. "Mara," she froze. He turned fully toward her, smiling in recognition. "You're back early," he said. "I don't think you have the right," she began. He laughed softly. "You always say that when you're distracted." Her mouth went dry. She studied his face. Mid-30s. Familiar in a way that made her chest ache. She could not place him, yet her body reacted as though it already knew him. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Yes," she said automatically. "I just long day." "That figures," he said. "You left your lunch again." He held up a familiar container. One she owned. One she could picture in her own kitchen. Something inside her recoiled. "I need to go," she said. He frowned. "Go where?" She stepped back into the elevator without answering. The doors closed before he could follow. Her hands shook as she pressed for again. Then, without knowing why, she pressed one. The elevator descended. When the doors opened, she was in the lobby. Her lobby. The cracked tile. The old notice board. The security desk with no guard. She stumbled out and leaned against the wall, heart racing. People passed through the lobby without noticing her distress. A couple argued quietly near the entrance. Someone checked their phone by the mailboxes. Everything looked normal. Too normal. She went home and locked the door behind her. She did not turn on the lights. She sat on the couch in the dark and tried to slow her breathing. She replayed the man's voice in her head. "You're back early." As if she had been there before. As if she belonged somewhere she had never been. She slept badly. The following days, she avoided the elevator entirely. She adjusted her schedule to use the stairs, even when tired. She told herself this was temporary, that whatever was wrong would resolve itself if she did not engage. But the building seemed to notice her avoidance. On the fourth day, the elevator doors opened on her floor just as she reached the stairwell. She stopped short. The hallway was empty. The doors stood open, waiting. She did not move. After a long moment, the doors closed on their own. That unsettled her more than if they had stayed open. On the sixth day, she found a note slipped under her apartment door. It was written in handwriting she recognized as her own. "You can't avoid this forever." She stared at the note until the words blurred. That night, she stood in front of the elevator again. This time, she did not pretend it was an accident. She stepped inside. As the doors closed, she noticed something she had missed before. The buttons were no longer labeled with numbers. They were labeled with words. The words on the panel did not glow. They sat there quietly, etched into the metal as if they had always belonged. Mara stared at them, her breath shallow, her fingers hovering inches away. The buttons read, "Before, after, almost, if only, stay." There was no lobby, no numbers, no indication of height or direction. The elevator doors closed on their own. The movement began immediately, smooth and unannounced. Mara gripped the railing along the wall, her reflection faint in the brushed metal. Without a mirror, she could only see herself distorted, broken into pieces by seams and scratches. "This isn't real," she said aloud. Her voice sounded wrong in the space, as though the elevator absorbed part of it and returned the rest. The motion stopped. The doors opened onto a hallway she knew too well. Her childhood home. Not the exact house, but close enough to tighten her throat. The wallpaper carried the same faded pattern. The light slanted through a side window at the same late afternoon angle she remembered from years ago. The air smelled faintly of dust and something warm, like baked bread. She did not step out. A younger version of herself ran down the hallway, barefoot, laughing, chased by a woman Mara recognized instantly. Her mother, alive, unhurried, calling her name with a voice unsoftened by loss. Mara's knees weakened. The elevator doors remained open, offering the scene without demand. She reached forward, then stopped. The panel behind her clicked softly. A new word appeared beneath the others. "Cost." The doors closed. The elevator moved again. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, heart pounding. Tears blurred her vision, but she wiped them away quickly, angry at herself for reacting. This was manipulation, memory dressed as invitation. When the doors opened again, the hallway was unfamiliar. Sterile, white. The hum of fluorescent lights pressed against her ears. A hospital corridor. She stood slowly and stepped out. A man sat alone in a row of plastic chairs, hands clasped tightly, head bowed. He looked up when he sensed her presence. It was the man from the second floor, the one who had called her by name. the one who had spoken as if they shared a life. "Mara," he said, relief flooding his face. "You came." She stayed where she was. "I don't belong here." His smile faltered. "You always say that when you're scared." The same words. Again. "What is this place?" she asked. He glanced down the hallway toward a closed door marked intensive care. "It's where we wait." "For what?" "For what we chose," he said quietly. A sharp pain bloomed behind her eyes. Images flickered. Arguments she did not remember having. Nights spent deciding and undeciding. A version of herself who stayed. Another who left. "You're not my life," she said, though doubt crept into her voice. "No," he agreed. "I'm one of them." Her stomach dropped. "How many?" He looked at her carefully. "As many as you were willing to imagine." The lights flickered. The hallway blurred at the edges, as if losing resolution. "Why are you showing me this?" she demanded. "Because you keep choosing silence," he said. "And silence doesn't erase paths. It just leaves them unfinished." The elevator doors opened behind her. She backed toward them without breaking eye contact. "If I stay," she asked, "what happens to me?" He hesitated. "You settle. You forget the sharp edges. You tell yourself this was always enough. And if I leave, you lose us," he said simply. "And you live with knowing we existed." The honesty hurt more than any threat. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, cutting off the hospital lights and his waiting gaze. This time, the elevator did not move right away. The panel flickered. The words rearranged themselves. Before disappeared. After dimmed. Only two remained lit. Almost. "Stay?" Her hands trembled as she raised them. She thought of the man in the hallway. Of the note written in her own hand. Of the versions of herself stacked like floors. Each one real. Each one abandoned by choice. She pressed almost. The elevator jolted. For the first time, the movement felt wrong. Too fast. Too deep. The walls seemed to stretch, the air thinning as if pulled away from her lungs. The doors opened onto darkness. Not absence, but depth. A vast, dim space filled with outlines. Shapes of rooms, hallways, moments suspended like unfinished sketches. People stood in clusters, unmoving. Some looked familiar. Others did not. All of them carried the same expression. Waiting. She understood without being told. These were the lives she had brushed against. The choices she had considered long enough to give form, then walked away from. A woman turned toward her. Her face was older, lines etched by years Mara had not lived. "You came back," the woman said. Mara recognized her own voice. "I didn't mean to," Mara replied. The woman smiled sadly. "None of us do." "What happens here?" Mara asked. "We remain," the woman said. "Not alive. Not gone. Just almost." The word echoed through the space. Mara felt the weight of it settle on her chest. The cost of endless hesitation. The quiet cruelty of never choosing fully. Behind her, the elevator door stayed open. She turned and saw the panel change again. One final word appeared, pulsing faintly. "Leave." She looked back at the waiting figures. "If I go," she said, "do you disappear?" The woman shook her head. "No. We fade. Slowly. Like all unchosen things." Mara swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The woman nodded. "We know." Mara stepped backward into the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of the space folding inward, dimming, compressing into memory. The elevator descended. When the doors opened, she was in her lobby. Her real lobby. The cracked tile. The flickering light. The notice board with outdated flyers. She stood there for a long time, waiting for something to feel different. Nothing did. The elevator doors closed behind her and did not reopen. Days passed. The elevator worked normally after that. Numbers returned. Floors repeated. No doors opened where they should not. But Mara had changed. She found herself answering calls she would have ignored before. Speaking when silence felt easier. Leaving places that asked her to stay small. Sometimes, late at night, she dreamed of hallways she almost walked down. Of people she almost became. When she woke, the dreams faded quickly. Almost always does. And she learned to live with that. Because some elevators do not exist to take you where you want to go. They exist to show you how many places you were willing not to choose.